Hey, good morning. I'm going to put this on both channels, so welcome to Integrative Preparedness and welcome to American Reversion. I want to talk today about the duty to protect. I was at a funeral yesterday. It was for a great guy who was family by marriage. He did many years in the fire service. I don't know how many, but he retired. He spent his last few years as chief at a major fire department. And as I sat there watching the crowd, I started thinking and seeing the difference. Of course, this is after the news of the Uvalde shooting had come out. That had already been percolating a little bit. And while they were playing Danny Boy in the funeral, which is a must for an Irish firefighter funeral. And then later on, while we were standing in the rain, and I was watching the honor guard fire the volley and the playing of taps, I watched the crowd, and it came to me, it occurred to me, I looked and I saw the difference in the people in the in the audience, in the crowd, excuse me. Among the firefighters and police who were there was a distinct difference. And you see this. And you see that among some military, those who were in the combat arms, you see in them the awareness, and even in this crowd and in a funeral situation, because the awareness never leaves you when you're of that group. The awareness that the world is a dangerous place, and if anything happens, they are there to step in, to immediately step in, that they have chosen this, they want this, they in some cases thrive on it, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but what I mean is it is the ultimate fulfillment of their reason for pursuing their career. That's why a firefighter runs into a burning building. That's why a police officer runs toward the danger. And so I say, and for you military guys, I'm not leaving you off. It's out at all. But it's why many in the military do that as well. And so I saw the clear distinction between the protectors, who you could tell, and the protected, if that makes sense. And that's what I want to talk about. Now we have and the problem with that. Now there's been some disturbing news coming out of Uvalde about, and I have no idea whether this is true or not. And I'm not going to make any snap judgments on it, but we've had some concerning information come out about the delay of law enforcement entering the school building. And apparently there's a lot of parents that were out there very upset that the first law enforcement on the scene was not going into the building. I've looked at the timeline. One law enforcement source said that it was 40 minutes between the time that the shooter entered the building and when they said they were in custody, or after the Bortat guy shot him. But I've looked at the timeline, and it looks, and actually the first alert went out at 11:32, and the first report that he was so-called in custody, meaning dead, was at 1:06. That's an hour and a half. So I don't know what's true. We don't know what's true yet. Hopefully there will be an investigation on this. Hopefully the truth will come out, and it will be a good investigation, a righteous investigation. We know what happened down at that school. Where was it, in Florida, where there were two deputies that apparently waited outside for quite an extended period of time, not going in. Was it Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, right? I don't keep up on these mass shootings. I'm not one of those people. But apparently two deputies waited a long time going outside. When I used to teach active shooter training in a corporate environment, I would explain to the people that they were pretty much on their own if an active shooter situation arose, and that they could not count on the arrival of police to assure their survival. My group, the administrators above me, because I said, you don't know what's going to happen. When the police get there, you don't know how long it's going to take for the police to get there. You don't know whether the first guy is going to come in by himself, because they're not all going to get there at the same time. The one guy might wait in his car, and I was told by my administrator, no, we've had meetings with the police department here, and they've assured us that their policy is that whoever gets there first is coming in. BS. And I told them that. And I continued to say what I said in my training. I put a lot of my own stuff in the training, because their training, to be honest, was bullshit. And so every time I'd go in and I said, here's what they want me to tell you, now here's what's real. They never made me stop. They would say, well, I don't know if you should say that or not. Yeah, well, I do. Truth of the matter is, it all depends on the guy. All depends on the person, guy or gal, whatever. Some are going to go, some are going to stay. And it's all about the individual. The solution for this is, now in my day, I know I go back, but we got a lot of other LEOs here, and I know you all will speak up on this. In my day, and among the good people of latter days, there is instilled within us an inherent duty to act. The idea that we would not act to save other people is anathema, meaning beyond belief, disgusting with almost a spiritual aspect. That's what we were there for, not to wear a shiny badge and act important and get free coffee. But you can't be everywhere at the same time, and I'll tell you where we have fallen down is in the area of the adults in the world. It used to be, as I recall, that almost all adults felt within them a duty to act. A duty to act on behalf of people being threatened or victimized. Didn't matter. Could be an insurance salesman if he was there. Could be a teacher. Could be a man, woman, whatever. They felt a duty to act, especially in the protection of children. That's gone away, because just like I saw at the funeral yesterday, there is this idea that there are the protectors, and the rest of society are the protected. They feel that they shouldn't have to do it. They feel it doesn't even enter into their mind that they should have to do it. Now, apparently there were some parents down there at Uvalde now, and this is first reports, so we don't know, that were so upset that the police weren't going in the school. And this could be totally wrong. Because reports say they're not sure exactly when this happened. Because, the information is a mess when these things happen. But they were even discussing storming the school themselves. They said the police aren't doing anything. We're going to storm the school. Now, this possibly could have happened later on, after BORTAC had already, been inserted. After it was, we don't know. But at least these parents, I like the fact that they wanted to do something. That is not the case in the vast majority of people today. I'm going to give you an example, and it's one of a friend of mine. He became a friend of mine. He was a retired prosecutor. So that tells you right there that he knows the bad in the world, right? He started out as a customer of mine, doing Christmas lights and landscape lighting on his house. I was over there talking to him one time, and I forget what brought it up. It might have been what is the name of that one? Gosh, I don't even remember. Like I say, I don't keep these in my head. Newtown. What was it? Anyway, it was a school shooting. And may I ask, we all have our opinions on those, right? Let's keep that particular opinion out of the comments, if we could, simply because it'll raise a flag, right? Stone. It's in the back of my mind. Maybe it'll come out later. Anyway, we were talking about this, and he didn't carry a gun, and I took him a long time for me to convince him to buy a gun. Now, here's a man who's already retired. He was resistant against it for a number of reasons, and he used all the excuses. And he says, well, his wife didn't want them to have a gun. And I thought, what? Your wife doesn't want you to have a gun? It's his second family, his second marriage. Like I say, he's a retired prosecutor. The guy, wife didn't want it. Finally, I kept talking at it, and I made it very clear. I says, what are you going to do if you, I carry, because if I'm someplace and something goes down, what if your kids are there? I'm going to step in and try to help. I'm going to step in and try to save them. Why won't you assume the same responsibility to protect your own kids and my kids? Why won't you do your part? And that made a dent. We continued to talk. It took a couple of years until finally we were standing out on his front step, and he looked at me and he said, Steve, I think it comes down to this. I just don't want to admit that I live in a world in which carrying a gun is necessary. And I blew up. I says, my Lord, did you just hear yourself? You're a man who has dealt with the realities of the world, but instead of accepting the realities and the responsibility that goes along with it, you want to live in some fantasy world to where you just don't want to admit that you live in a world that's like that. Pretty soon he bought a gun, and but he still doesn't carry it. This is the problem. We have an entire country who has lived so separate from reality. They don't grow their own food. I don't either. I'm not saying that, They don't do a lot of things. They fix things with their credit card and the taxes that they pay. They think. But they don't think they should have to be responsible for protecting themselves. I don't know how many people I've talked to about this, otherwise good people, I have another friend who won't carry a gun. He's a tough guy, a big muscular guy. He says, boy, if anybody came after my kids, I'd do everything in the world to protect them. And I said, well, you won't carry a gun? What does that mean? You won't do everything that it takes. You won't do anything that it takes. You're a big tough guy. Maybe you could whip him if he didn't have a gun. I used to be tough. I was never tough enough to whip a guy who had a gun if I didn't have one. And so he's just going to shoot your ass and then shoot your kids and your wife. This is the problem. We have too many in our society who just won't accept the responsibility to protect themselves and others. And it used to be accepted. It just used to be basic that adults would protect kids. Now, did all the adults carry guns back then? No, hardly anybody did. Hardly anybody carried a gun back in the 50s and 60s and even the 70s. But we also didn't have all these maniacs. Society had not collapsed at that time to the extent that it has now. We did not have all these active shooting situations. And so it wasn't an issue. But we do now. We do now. And so as situations change, so does the necessity for changing your behavior in order to deal with it. I don't think it's going to change because we've just got too many soft people who will not accept this. They will not accept it. But that's why the rest of us have to be more aware. And that's why we also have to try to convince these other people to stop being the protected and start assuming the responsibility of being a protector. You know, when people come to, too bad Hallie's not here, I would have her tell the story, but when people come to me and want to train with me, I sit down and I talk with them for a long time before I decide whether or not I'm going to accept them as a student. Because when I train somebody, the training is extensive and it's wide. But the one thing that I say to them is this: if I train you, you accept the responsibility of being a protector of anyone in your sphere. That the world around you must be safer because you're there, whether the world around you knows it or not. That's the responsibility that comes with ability. And grown-ups, so-called grown-ups, adults today, anybody over 21, should assume the responsibility of being a protector of others who would be victimized and develop the ability to satisfy that responsibility. Will this happen? No, it won't. It won't, because there's just too many people don't want to be a part of it. They don't want to admit they live in a world where that's necessary. It doesn't touch them. They don't have the guts. They don't think it's important. They think the whole world is a peachy place until something like this happens, and then, oh my God, let's go have a candlelight vigil and let's pound our fists on the table and say this will stop. This must stop. And then we get morons like LeBron James, being all, and Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just made my son upset there because he likes Patrick Mahomes. What do we care what these people come out and make statements? What do we care that these so-called celebrities come out? And what happens is, and then we get these morons from Hollywood who don't know jack, come out and say, what they think. And everybody thinks that they've done what they should because they're upset. Well, tell you what, the other side's doing all they can, aren't they? Excuse me. Still early. Haven't cleared everything out of my throat yet. The other side's doing everything they can. They always do. But we're not. And what we need to do is start becoming disciples. We need to start becoming messengers of the message that all adults need to assume the responsibility of being protectors, and then start carrying everywhere and develop the ability to be the protector. We're always going to have nuts. The world's like that. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. It's not getting better. The choice is just to go along and suffer through this increasing mess, or to develop the ability to do something about it, and that's what we ought to do. So, with anytime I get a chance, I try to impress on people the importance of this, and I lose some people, and I gain some people. But, think about this. Think about being the person that gets out there and encouraging all adults out there, hey, you have to be a part of the solution. The police are not the solution. The police get somewhere after it happens, clean up the mess, or call the ambulances to clean up the mess. Try to find out who did it. How does that help the people who were already victimized? It doesn't. Okay. That's what we lack in this country, but it's one of many things that we lack, right? We lack essential responsibility. The duty to protect. It's something that I think used to be at the bedrock of the American adult. And it ain't there anymore. So those of us who have it, speak up. Let the other milquetoasts out there understand and see the difference, that you're willing to step up. Why aren't they? You all have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.